You know what I realized actually, because I was actually listening. I do so much research for this that I don't often get to listen to other true crime podcasts, but I did because I was going on a walk last week and I realized I was like, because sometimes like we'll get comments on this podcast and people are like, "Oh my God, like get over the banter, like just get to the story."
Right.
And I was like, I don't understand. I was like, I think our banter is so fun. I love it. So I listened cold turkey to another true crime podcast, and they had a ton of banter. It was 3 of them. And I had the same experience. Because I felt, you know what I felt like? I felt like the fourth wheel in that case. But like, odd man out. I was like, they're talking about inside jokes, and they're laughing, and I'm not in on it. And I felt bad.
Yeah. No, I totally get it. I think, I feel like it's either that has to be like solidified from listening to the podcast for so long that you almost feel like you become friends with them. But what that requires is that our banter speaks to them in some way, the audience. So like if they don't get it, they're like, okay, I don't care. Like you know what I mean? Because like on
totally.
What's the really famous murder podcast?
Like My Favorite Murder.
My Favorite Murder. They banter for like a solid like 25 minutes at the beginning.
They do.
And I'm like,
they do. But when my sister got me into it, like in the car, the first thing I said, I was like, can we skip this part? I was like, I just want to get to the story because I wasn't invested in them. Now I am. But it's strange to think about like where that actual finish line is.
Yeah.
Where suddenly you're like, okay, I feel like a friend to them, so I enjoy their banter. Do you have a big gulp cup? Oh, hell yeah.
Duh. I actually reached...
Wait, what's in it?
Diet Coke, baby. Diet Coke. I reached for the large, and the woman next to me, I was like going back and forth, and I didn't realize that the woman like behind me was waiting to go, and I was like, and she was like, "Get the extra large." I was like, "Okay, you're right." So
no, that was Spirit. That was actual Spirit.
It was Spirit. It was.
Yeah. Immediately after that, she evaporated, or it was Teresa Caputo, our friend Teresa.
Oh my God, is she still doing stuff?
Could you imagine if she wasn't? Could you imagine if she was like, I'm going to try something else. I'm going to temp. Like,
oh my God, I'm going to temp.
If she just gave it all up. I'm drinking simply orange juice because I got this at a drive-through window the other night because I went to Jack in the Box. Sad time.
Oh my
gosh. But I didn't want like a heavy burger, so I was like, I'm going to get a kid's meal. And they were like, drink of choice. And I was like, a Coke. And she's like, you get milk or orange juice. It's like, well, if I drink milk with a burger, I think I might just like go home and shoot myself.
Oh my gosh.
Oh. Okay, well, that's the extent of the banter I will get into.
That's the banter.
Thank you for humoring me. Hi, everybody. Welcome to CreepTime, the podcast, with your hosts, Silas Dean and Stu. We're so happy to have you here. Thank you for listening.
Thank you for listening. Creepers, it's fall.
It is fall. Someone told me that yesterday. They were like, guys, it's the first day of fall. And I was like, no, that's around the solstice. And they were like, baby, we're here. I truly, honest to God, thought it was like September 1st. That's how disconnected I am from the days.
That's when, you thought that's when fall was? Or you thought it was September 1st?
I thought it was September 1st as of yesterday, which was the 22nd.
Are you well?
Fall is not Is that a rhetorical question? Absolutely not. Oh, man.
You have so much going on. I cannot imagine. Keeping up with the dates, baby. It's too hard.
I'm trying. I'm really trying. I mean, I do feel better now because, like, moving was definitely tough to get through, but I'm a little more settled in. As you can see, I have a lot going on in the background here now.
I know. I love all your plants.
I'm building a little greenhouse in this office, so it'll be cute. I'm going to hang some curtains this weekend, probably.
Oh, that'll be lovely.
Yeah, I'm excited. Also, let me just make sure I silence my phone because Lord knows. Also, to your point that you were saying before, you were like, it takes a little bit for people to like get involved with the inside jokes. I will give some shout outs because there are some people who listen to this podcast who constantly comment quotes from this podcast. And they love to say, they talk about county police.
County police.
They talk about, give me that basement. and they reference kin all the time. They go, yo, kin.
No, they do not.
I see it I'll send you screenshots. I see it in the comments all the time. If you're listening, I see you. I appreciate you. Thank you.
And
We
we're
love it.
kin. And we're kin.
And
You're
we
part
are
of our
kin.
kin.
You're right on
That's
the money,
so
honey.
funny. Right on the money, honey.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's funny to hear like the quotes that we're gravitating towards. They're also in on. So I think there are some people that are along for the ride. They appreciate the banter.
Oh, well, we
They're,
appreciate them listening.
yeah, we do. We do. I was gonna ask you before I jumped into this because I have a special case teed up for you. Very special. And it's special in that I feel like all the cases we've covered before are cases that have kind of sat for a good number of years. They're not super, super recent. I am going to cover something that is breaking currently in the news. And I never do that. I didn't cover anything on Gabby Petito ever because I don't usually chase stories like this because there's new information that comes out every single day and it completely changes the narrative. However, I've received so many requests about this case, about this girl, and I get like a little report from YouTube. They kind of send like a search report of like what your audience is interested in, like what they're searching for. For the last like 3 weeks, maybe even more, the number one search every single week from the audience is this girl in this case. And it's unfolding every single day in the media as we speak. You may have even heard of it. Have you heard of Kylie Rodni?
That sounds really familiar, but
The name you may not know. When I describe the headline of the case, you might be like, "Oh, I've seen this." Okay.
okay.
It's really eerie. Like I said, there's a lot that we don't know. So what I will preface is before we get into this, everything that I'm going to tell you is the information we have up until this point. You know, there's still the medical examination is waiting to happen. More details on alibis, on timelines, phone records could come out. There are things that could change. So everything that I'm saying as of this date in September 2022 is the information we have thus far. But what we do have is weird. It's really eerie. Okay, so I will give you the top line of the case because the circumstances are pretty shocking, just to see if it'll jog your memory a little bit. And then I'm going to get into some of the backstory of Kylie, and then I'm going to go into what happened the night of. And this all happened literally this summer. This is like really, really recent, like August. So the top line. To fill you in or just refresh your memory, the headline of this, which you may have seen in the news, is that Kiely Rodni was a 16-year-old girl who was living in Northern California at the time. And on August 5th of this summer, 2022, literally a second ago, as we heard, I just thought it was September 1st a minute ago, she attended a party at the campground, or a campground known as the Prosser Family Campground, which is near the Tahoe National Forest. It's about 17 miles north of Lake Tahoe. So reportedly at this party, there are like hundreds of kids, Stu. Like, it's like 200, 300 kids on this campground partying for like, I think it's like a senior, like last bang or like last party of the summer kind of deal. But what's odd about that, one, is that what came in was a lot of people reported that it was odd that many people would go to a party in this area on this campground because the roads are notoriously difficult to navigate when it's dark, like incredibly narrow. But what's even stranger about it is that with these 300 kids that were there, virtually no one has come forward to reporting having witnessed seeing Kylie leave the party or at any point wanted to talk to law enforcement or wants to talk to the press. Everybody's keeping really, really quiet. Huge red flag. However, she was last seen just after midnight of that night before she vanished and was reported missing late that night. So what was initially suspected as maybe this could have been something that went wrong, like an abduction, and it still could have been an abduction, we don't know. It sadly had this grisly outcome, which we're going to get into. And although there have been some key finds in this case to this date, as of September 2022, the question of whether or not what happened to Kylie was foul play or was her own doing is still very much up for debate. I thought I did a decent job there of teeing it up without giving too much away.
Yes. Oh my gosh. It's so thrilling that this is something that's still, I mean, not thrilling, that's the wrong
No, but
put
it's
it. But like,
it's something about the chase and like uncover it. You could uncover and give justice. Yeah, what's exciting about a case like this is that I feel like a lot of the unsolved cases that we usually look at have sat for so long that they're most likely going to remain unsolved. This is exciting in the sense that if we're in on the chase and it's happened so recently, there is high potential that there's going to be an answer to this, to what happened to this girl. But I should ask, have you heard of the case?
I was just thinking to myself, maybe I live under a rock, but this does not sound familiar to me. Has it been on like all over the news?
It has, yeah. It's. I feel like it's kind of nearing the kind of media shift that like Gabby Petito had at the time, and it's turning out to kind of be almost parallel in a lot of strange ways. But I feel like I saw a lot of pictures for it. You know, like I saw a lot of like headlines and pictures, but I wasn't really following what was going on. And then there were a lot of videos that came out because what would end up happening is that it's actually like a third party like diving team that finds this girl. I'm getting ahead of myself, but this case is insane. I'm going to run you through what actually went down on the night of, just so you have full context here. So before I do that, let me just give you a little bit of background just so you know who Kylie was. So we mentioned that she's the 16-year-old girl, and she lived in a place called Truckee, California, which I had never heard of before, but that's somewhere up in Northern California. And she lived most of her life at this ski lodge, which I believe was built by her grandfather back in like the 90s, like 1997. She was born in 2005, and she was raised there for the majority of her life. And Truckee and this like general area is essentially the town or the area where, oh my God, do you hear that? That's the automatic cat feeder.
I was like, is somebody banging pots and pans?
No. Oh, no. Oh, I should have let him in. He's going to make noise. I'll let him in.
Is it your cat?
Yeah, it's Dexter.
Oh!
Okay, he's going to come in. He's gonna eat for a bit.
Come on, Dexter.
Sorry, everybody. Come on, Dex. We have the cat named Dexter, and our vacuum cleaner is called Dee Dee, like Dexter's sister from Dexter's Lab.
That's so cute.
I know. All right, where was I? So yeah, Truckee, this general area, that is where the majority. So, I'm all over the place right now. Holy shit.
This is what happens when we can't record for a week and we just get overly excited to see each other.
I am overly excited. I'm so excited. Okay. This is Spirit intervening. They're telling me not to get through this sentence. What was I even saying? Oh yeah. So this is the place where the majority of the story takes place. And for a lot of people who were confused, for anybody who was confused, like, okay, why was she at a party at a campground? Why were any of them at a party in like a campsite? That was pretty normal for this area. Like that was a commonly known spot, although it was difficult to navigate. So I believe that what I saw in the research was that she grew up there in that ski lodge, and she was raised by her mother and her stepfather. And I did find this mention of a younger brother, but aside from that, there's like almost no other personal information to glean at this point because the case is still kind of early, you know? But what I will do is I will give a shout out to Antimony Lane on YouTube because she did a phenomenal job doing the background research on this to like tell the story of who Kylie was before all of this broke. And that's not easy to do. Like she was really digging for this and she found it. So of course, Kylie, she went to high school at the time. She was still attending. And I believe this, like I said, might have been the very end of their summer break because this was supposed to be like the final party of the summer, the senior blowout. So it's all pretty normal. Like this just seems like, okay, high school party. That's the story. We got it. Where does this all go wrong? So what we know is that she was set to be attending this party in the woods on the campground the night of August 5th, and just about 6 hours before her last known sighting at the party, we actually have surveillance footage of her in a store within town where she just like popped in to buy something really quick. But this was a really lucky break for the case because we at least have visual confirmation of like what she looked like that night, what she was wearing, like so we can identify her. It's much easier to be like, all right, we know that she went in there. She was wearing like a spaghetti string bodysuit. She had on Dickies, black Vans. Although there were reports later in the night that she may have put on a hoodie. Maybe it wasn't her hoodie. It might have been a friend's or one of the boys who were there. But she was described in a light color hoodie as well. So that's what we know about Kylie. So what do we know about what went down at this party? Because again, nobody's talking. Nobody's talking. So Kylie arrives at the party in her own car. She's driving herself in a silver SUV, and she starts to make the rounds at the party. She's having a good time. To me, this was the most pivotal part of the research in this case because something seems really wrong about the scene where, like I said, we have these 200, 300 kids, and it seemed like she was being social, like she was walking around and she was mingling with everybody, but nobody wants to say, like, yeah, I saw her and she seemed like this, or yeah, I didn't see her, or I saw her with this guy or this girl. Like, there's like a reluctancy to connect the dots, which, what do you think that's about?
Was she relatively popular? Do you know? I guess we don't know much.
I don't know very much about like her social standing with a lot of these kids. I can't imagine she knew all of them. You know, they must have. They probably came from different towns. Like it was a cross town party, but I don't know. Is it just like that case like we talked about where like when teenagers get in trouble or like something really tragic like this goes down, all of a sudden parents are like, keep your mouth shut, we're getting a lawyer.
Yeah.
So then everybody stays quiet.
I feel like that's probably part of it, and also the friend groups themselves that are probably intertwined within that 300. If one of them knows something, I'm sure that either people are being told don't say anything because we're all going to get in trouble, or
Right.
you know, or maybe
Like they're waiting
just
for like who's going to go
scared.
down first.
Yeah, waiting for who's going to say something first. That's
The
my
media might
only.
have something to do with it too. I mean, because there's this huge, there's this really big issue with how the media has handled this, and they've kind of exacerbated the case. And they're because no one's talking. The few that have stepped forward, or the few that have been connected to her, are getting hounded by press right now, and they're like 16, 17. So I can imagine that's certainly an incentive to want to stay quiet, especially if you don't really know anything. You just happen to see her.
Mm-hmm.
But we do have some. Hold on. Let me let this cat out. Dex, run. Be free. Be free.
Fly, Dex. Fly.
He is the sweetest cat in the world, I swear to God. I love him. But Daddy, I love him.
Well, he must love you with the automatic cat feeder. Oh my gosh.
Oh, he's my roommate's cat. That's his automatic cat feeder.
Oh
But
my God.
He does love me. He loves me. Okay, let's see. Well, like I was saying, so I think another part about that could have to do with maybe like the illegal activities that were going on at the party. If people were drinking underage, you know, college is right around the corner. If they're seniors, like nobody wants to jeopardize their future. I'm not saying any of that is valid. I'm just trying to get inside the mind of like why so many people are staying quiet, and like a girl met this really tragic end. You know what I mean?
Do you think the school has told them to not say anything?
Oh God, I have no idea. I mean, there are so many towns that were there that I don't know if any of the schools have made any comment. Actually, I didn't find anything about that in the research, but that's an interesting take too. Yeah, if they put out like a memo and they were like, unless you're tapped by law enforcement, stay out of the way of the investigation. Like, don't go out of your way to, you know, muddle things or confuse things, maybe.
So
I don't
this was
know.
multiple schools. Like this wasn't like one school's big senior party. It was like a bunch of schools in the area.
I'm not 100%, but I think that's the case. Solely because I know for her to get home that night, it was going to be like a 45-minute drive, which tells me that this didn't take place like directly in her town. But in like that general area of Northern California, which makes me think, yeah, there were like groups of people that came from nearby towns to this one meeting point.
Gotcha.
I think. We don't really know. So what we do know is that only one of the people, so this is one person that I could find details on, who talked to police about Kylie that night, was a close friend of hers whose name is Sammy Smith. I think since then she's actually come out even more, and she's kind of becoming an advocate for the case to try to find out what happened to Kylie that night. But she was really helpful because she at least gave us some context for the timeline of what was going on at that party. So at 11, they reportedly went to Kylie's car, Sammy and Kylie, to charge their phones, and then Kylie agreed that she was going to drive Sammy home that night, but then later changed her mind once Sammy saw just how intoxicated Kylie got. So we have confirmation that Kylie was definitely drinking, or she was doing something. but she had intentions to drive. She had her car there. So by 11:30, Kylie texts her mom saying that she's going to head home in about 45 minutes. And for context, like I said, this is like 12 miles away from where the party was taking place. I guess 12 miles probably wouldn't take like a half hour. But if you're going through back roads, especially through like camp back roads, maybe it would take you a little longer.
Mm-hmm.
And then by 12:25, Kylie and Sammy say goodbye to each other, according to Sammy. And then at 12:30, this was the last time that she was seen. And Sammy is technically the only person that we know of who saw her leaving, or at least up until this point in my research. As of today, I believe, a Jane Doe has stepped forward, an anonymous person who was at the party, a girl, said that she saw Kylie around 1 a.m. So this was after Sammy's last reported sighting, and she said Kylie was still at that campsite. And she also gave some context as to why Kylie may not have left the campsite that night, because there's one main road, like the safest road to get out of there because it's the widest. And she was saying, this anonymous person, that like some of the boys had like pulled down to that road and they blocked it with their cars because they pulled over to like fight or something. So it like caused like a backup of cars. Like nobody was going to get out, and unless they were to take like some alternate route through the woods or something like that. But she believed like that would mean that she didn't see Kylie leave before then, and that was happening before she saw Kylie. So she had no reason to believe that Kylie had left up until that point, around 1, maybe even as far as 2. So before I go any further, because we've talked a little bit in the story about drinking and driving and, you know, what Kylie might have been doing and what her friends were thinking, I do just want to say that I don't want to press any blame on the girl, Sammy, for coming forward, for like telling the truth of probably what happened, that she was talking to Kylie and then Kylie seemed intoxicated and she decided she wasn't going to ride with her, but maybe didn't intervene. You know, it's important that she came forward and she told the absolute truth of like what she did that night, instead of trying, we talked about this before, trying to like morph the story to make herself sound better, to make Kylie sound better, because this gives us a pretty accurate window into like, all right, we understand where her head was at, we understand what her intentions were, so where do we go from here? So the story is not intended to shame her, it's not intended to, you know, judge her for making a bad call. I just wanted to say that before we go any further, because I've certainly been in situations like that where I was that age too, and I have made terrible decisions with getting into cars with people that I should not have gotten into cars for, and it's never worth it.
Yeah, never worth it. Also, the truth sets you free. So, also, Sammy shouldn't have to live with, you know, the guilt or shame of,
Yeah.
you know, what if she had kept that to herself, what could have turned into something and festered for years. So I commend her for telling the truth. It's not easy to do at that age.
Not at all, not at all. And I commend her also for going a step further. I think at this point, maybe she's so heavily involved in the case, not only because Kylie was a great friend of hers, but I think because maybe she does feel a little bit of guilt for what happened that night or making that judgment call, but she's really doing the most. She's doing everything she can, I think, to like speak about what happened, speak about what she knew, where Kylie was at, give names, and that's giving us the clearest context and the clearest window as to what happened to this girl that night. Mm-hmm. I just wanted to say that because I've seen a lot of coverage on this case so far, and like I said, the media's been really vicious, but what's been worse is online. Like going through like web sleuths and going through Reddit, through TikTok, like it's been really hard to like read and listen to a lot of the takes on this case, because not only is it like riddled with horrible conspiracy theories because there's so little information, but there's a lot of like finger pointing, right? Somebody wants somebody to blame and wants somebody to be mad at, and I don't think that's the smartest way forward, considering how much Sammy has given us. So I commend her for being honest. Mm-hmm. So to get us back on track, here's what we know. So we had that timeline where Sammy said, I saw her at 12:30, and then this anonymous person apparently saw her around 1. What police are able to tap into is that we know the last ping that ever came from her cell phone was 12:33, and it was somewhere in this area, but it was near a body of water. But there's no further tracking information, and it was presumed that it just died that night. And then when she didn't return that night, police were contacted by the family. And because she's 16, I think the family were like, this is, you absolutely have to, deem this as a missing person. She's in danger. But there has been a lot of criticism on this because police did not issue an Amber Alert, and they said that this did not meet the requirements of an Amber Alert, which I think has to do with, like, this is a person who is not of, like, the mental fortitude to, like, make decisions for themselves, or they're a danger to themselves, like, they could hurt themselves. But I thought a minor was also included in that.
I was going to say, usually Amber Alerts are for missing children that they believe have been, like, abducted. But
Is 16 not considered a minor?
Well, I would think so. I don't know.
Maybe it's different by state, by territory. I don't know. Sometimes, like, ages with, like, minors, and I also find that strange, like, that there's no, like, blanket age of consent as being 18. Because, like, Connecticut has weird laws on that, too. Like, well, the what were you going to say?
Oh, well, I was going to say, I'm curious what the difference is, because you know how, like, in some of these cases we cover, you have to wait the 24-hour window in order to report a missing persons. What's the difference between reporting missing persons and Amber Alert? Because Amber Alert goes out immediately.
Right. I think it has to do with, like, danger to themselves. It's a person we know who is, like, either senile or has special needs and can't make decisions for themselves alone, or it's literally a child. I think those are the three criteria.
Okay.
But that's the big critique. Everyone's like, well, why didn't county police just
You knew I was going to ask.
Oh yeah. Well, that's not the only ball they dropped in this case. We're going to get into some shit because they really botched some of this bad, and they've got a big spotlight on them now. So there's no Amber Alert issued. However, it's taken seriously as a missing person, and the search begins, I believe, by the next morning. But then there's a kink in this story. A witness comes forward later in the week who claimed to see and interact with her on Sunday morning. Stu, when I was reading this,
I just got chills.
My mind was, I was literally spinning. Okay, so the reason I included this in this section of this, because I could jump to the other part of the story where, like, quite obviously we know that, like, Kylie is going to be found and it's a grim outcome, but I wanted to include this for timeline's sake. So this person answered to a service request for a dead car battery, and he showed up near a body of water, which was just north of where this party was the night before. He did not know at the time because the story hadn't really hit traction in the media yet, but he later realized who he interacted with was Kylie, and it was the silver SUV, and that she had called in a request for it. So here's where everything gets really, really weird. The car battery was not dead. She called in a dead car battery. Car battery is not dead. The car is in neutral. So he's like, what the hell? And then he corrects it. And then he notices that she's not alone. She's in the car with somebody. So Kylie is in this car with an unknown male. And he's somewhere around her age. He reported maybe about 6 feet, thin, kind of skinny build, a lot of facial acne he was described with, and this, like, dark brown kind of wispy hair that's, like, peeking out of his San Francisco baseball cap, and a white sleeveless top. And there were reports, I think anonymous reports that came through that said from the party the night before that Kylie was seen with a guy who kind of fit that description. She might have been seen with several guys. It's up in the air where the hoodie came from, but the serviceman is there. This is allegedly Sunday morning. Kylie calls in a dead car battery. There is no dead car battery, and she's sitting in this car with this unknown dude. The serviceman said something seemed really wrong with them. They were both kind of off, both, like, uneasy, and Kylie starts asking strange questions, and she's asking how to properly secure her seatbelt, and she's asking, can my seatbelt connect to my regular belt? Like something's going off, right? He also noted later that they had this odd body language with each other, because at some point they get out of the car and they're standing outside of the car. This is, in my mind, this is a parallel to Gabby Petito. And every time that the guy moves, this unknown man who's with her, Kylie distances herself and puts herself on the opposite side of the car. She's creating space between, like, physical space between them. But then eventually, I mean, since there's nothing wrong with the car, the serviceman just, sort of puts the car in drive, and he was like, have a nice day. and then he realized later what he might have encountered could have been the actual last sighting of Kylie. Now, this gets interesting and, timeline-wise for some other things that come forward a little bit later. But when I heard this, it really freaked me out because up until this point, I think we had assumed that whatever happens to Kylie between that party and when she was found probably happened that night. To think that she was not only alive by Sunday morning, but possibly in the company, or most definitely in the company of some unknown guy is weird. It's
you
weird.
Think the unknown guy, I mean, I think it's somebody that was at the party, but are you thinking that it could have been not somebody from the party?
Okay, so I was going to get into this later, but I'm gonna talk about it now. So, the big question on everyone's mind, they were like, who was the guy? Who was the guy? And he matches the description of this like on again, off again boyfriend that she has. I think his name is Jagger Westfall. I think I wrote it down as. Yeah, Jagger Westfall. And he's a 16-year-old. Literally, like, there's a picture of him on Fox News. He looks exactly like this description. Like, it's insane. However, law enforcement came out with a statement saying that he has a credible alibi and has since provided proof that he was out of town or something, like, Saturday night, and there's no evidence, and, like, couldn't have been at the party. But I was like, well, that doesn't make any sense, nor does it even line up with this timeline that we're talking about. Like, yeah, he may not have been at the party, but this serviceman is saying that this happened on Sunday, but now the serviceman is going back and forth, and he's like, I actually don't know fully when the day was. Like, it's all very wishy-washy. So there's no definitive timestamp for this. I thought that would be like cut and dry, but like a service request. Aren't there logs for that and things?
I would imagine.
There has to be a log for that. Yeah, there has to be like some record.
Who called him to come over there and fix the car? Check that.
That's what I'm saying.
Record.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. I was like, there should be ample evidence, one, to prove it was Kylie, but also to like back up like your dates and the timelines of this, and all I think the service company just said that they've turned over like everything they have record-wise to police. So maybe they do know something timeline-wise, and they're just not letting us know yet. But I think it's interesting that they're concealing that information for right now, but they've definitively ruled out this on-again, off-again boyfriend, Jagger. Is it Jagger? Now I'm going to be upset if it's not Jagger. I'm pretty sure that's the name. Yeah, it was kind of infuriating because I was like, well, that's got to be it. So now if that's not it, who is this guy?
The name itself is a red flag.
Why? Because a Dorit's kid?
Yeah. Jagger, baby. Jaggy! Wow, that was an amazing impression.
Just squealing.
When you said the description is that the person had acne, I'm thinking 16-year-old. I'm thinking someone that was of her age.
So he said on his statement, definitely a lot of facial acne, or it could have been freckles. And I'm like, well, what does that give us? Come on.
Oh,
like,
sir.
I know, like, the most unobservant witness you've ever seen. Literally probably spent like a good like half hour with these people, and he's like, could have been a man.
That's such a good point,
Maybe
because I was
not.
going to say,
Like,
I'm sure he spent like quite a bit of time diagnosing the battery issue, if that's what they thought it was. Like,
oh yeah, seeing them get out of the car, seeing like different angles of them, like, like you'd get a good look at people, unless like, I don't know. Some people don't have our eyes, Stu. Some people don't have the eye.
Well, God help them.
So, let's see. So we know what happened with the serverman. Oh, his name was Jagger. Okay, confirmed. It was Jagger. So that's what we have up until this point, right? We've got that potential last witness sighting of Kylie Sunday morning, and then nobody knows what happened next. Let's lead into the investigation. Or do you have any questions about that party? Want to talk anything about that party?
I mean, I'm wondering what like drug she might have been on, or like, from what you described, like seatbelt into my belt, like, it almost sounds like nervous chatter, maybe, but also, bizarro, strange.
Yeah, weird, really weird. I mean, she was definitely drinking, but it wasn't clear if I've been like in the pits of Reddit, so who knows if any of this is true. So I'm gonna keep it very, very grain of salt, but somebody said that she might have been doing psychedelics that night.
Mm-hmm.
I can't imagine though that like she would have intent. Like nobody goes knowing that they're going to drive later that night and just drops psychedelics, do they?
Well, here's another thing that I was thinking about. What if she was around getting attention from either this guy or other guys, and they're like,
Okay.
don't leave, keep drinking, keep hanging out with us, and she ends up doing some drugs, and she's like, shoot, I definitely can't drive home now. I gotta stay out here. I gotta stay with somebody.
Yeah.
What the heck am I gonna do? And
Yeah.
either picked the wrong guy, which was this guy, or picked who she knew, or picked the wrong guy, which was this guy, and it was someone she didn't know very well. And
Oof. Well, that's the eerie part too. Is that like so the last ping of her cell phone came at 12:33. So why are there no other pings from her cell phone, considering that she was most likely the person who made a call? You know what I mean, for like Sunday morning.
oh, you okay? So she made a call for the car.
I think she was the person who made the call, unless it came from this unknown male's cell phone number. I don't have details on that, but I just found that odd that like the statement they've given, they're like the last ping of her cell phone was 12:33 and we a.m. and we don't know what happened to her after that.
I feel like her phone probably died.
But she was in a car with her charger, right? Remember, she went back to her car. Like it doesn't unless like her head was truly gone.
Yeah, unless
like,
she was
things just aren't making
wasted
sense.
and things, she was just like going to the tune of whatever this person was telling her to do because she was getting attention.
I'm so fascinated in the next couple of weeks. Probably by October, we're going to get the tox screen from her body to figure out what she was actually on.
Yeah.
That could explain a lot. But to dive a little bit into like the investigation, because I haven't actually told you like how like the end that this meets. So this is like a massive search effort by police and volunteers. Like this amassed over 19,000 man hours of searching for this girl. And they even searched the body of water where she was discovered, but they didn't uncover her the first time they searched it. So it wasn't until, like I said, this independent team of divers, I am blanking on their name, but I mean, they truly are the heroes of this case because they are the ones who found her. Have you heard about it?
Wait, I am sort of remembering the story only because I saw this team of divers on TV.
Yeah.
Yeah. They
Their,
have like
their
a
video
name.
is viral.
Yeah, they're like famous. But that's all
It's
I
something like
literally
Angel
know.
Rescue or
Yes,
something like that.
yes.
Like, yeah, this is what they do. They're like vigilante. They're like a dive team that goes and they hunt for people who might have gone missing in certain
Yes.
bodies of water. So they go after the search had already commenced and cleared this body of water. They don't buy it, so they go into this water on August 21st. This is about like 2 weeks after the initial disappearance, and they go down just 14 feet into the water, where they spot the silver SUV upside down. Now, if you've seen the video, but for anyone who hasn't, this entire discovery is caught on like the body cam of one of the divers, and they've only released snippets of it, but it's really shocking to see. It's like people have scrutinized this video because like you see the license plate and like you like go through the door, you see like the glove compartment, and a lot of her belongings reportedly weren't retrieved from the water. They've left like a lot of what was in the car like just in that water, which is insane. So the diver comes up to the surface and he reports that he found her vehicle, and he says she's inside. She's curled up in the back seat.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So he knows it's her immediately because, again, they had been briefed about like what she was wearing that night, and he says something looks suspicious about this. She's in the back seat, not the driver's seat. Something looks off. So the reason that fell off to him was because 2 windows of this car were found rolled down, yet Kylie was still inside and in a different position from someone who would have been driving that vehicle. So she is the only body found in the car, and that mystery man, who we don't fully know who he is because, again, the boyfriend has this alibi, nobody knows where that guy is. So the divers, out of respect, which I think is actually really admirable and kind of just very sweet that they did this, before they called police to call this in, they called the family. They called the parents to let them know that we've confirmed we've just found your daughter and we found her vehicle. She's in this body of water. And then they called police The medical examiner comes and they're able to verify, I think by the following day, that it is definitely Kylie Rodney, 16-year-old Kylie Rodney. And as of this date, the investigation is still ongoing. The vehicle has been taken from the body of water and the autopsy is underway. And we are still waiting on additional details. That's what we've got so far. It's a lot.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Question. How deep was this body of water?
So I don't know how deep it actually went. I know that her car, like to this portion of the water, the car was found only 14 feet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you want to know my first thought?
Of course.
I'm wondering if she died actually before, like something happened, or she was killed on purpose. Whether it was foul play or not, I'm not sure. But this person's line of thinking was, I'm going to throw her in the car, I'm going to drive it into the water, and I'm going to swim out of the windows.
Yeah, maybe.
If the windows are rolled down.
I have to look up, you know what? Let me look this up real quick because I actually want to see what the body of water looks like because I'm trying to understand, even if, okay, so if they're going with like the simple theory that she was just intoxicated and she drove her car into the water, I'm imagining her driving off of a cliff. But that's not what this looks like. This looks like a lake entrance where it's just like kind of flat sand. So it is like what you're saying, like somebody like puts a car in neutral and just like lets the car slowly roll into the water with the windows down.
Oh, it was found in neutral?
I don't know if it was found in neutral. They're still investigating, you know, how the car was found. That would be really interesting if the car was found in neutral.
Yeah, if it was found in neutral, I would definitely bank on that someone actually did not drive it in and swam out. They just let it roll in and figured she would sink with it.
So I'm curious to hear if there, I mean, we're not going to know until the medical examination comes out, but I'm curious to hear, also I just sent you a picture of the body of water and the car being retrieved. I'm curious if there were any external injuries on her body because she's described in the hoodie. She's found curled up in the back seat. So everybody, when they heard the backseat thing, they were like, well, of course this is foul play because she's in the back seat. However, there was like, I think a third-party medical examiner who came forward and they were like, actually, that's pretty common for people who like accidentally go in cars in the water because what happens is the car starts filling up with water. You panic and there's too much pressure coming through the windows. So you, to like survive and get some air, you crawl to the back seat because the nose of the car is going to go down first, like the Titanic. Because that's the heaviest part of your car.
Oh my gosh, this photo.
I know. The video is like really, really eerie to watch. I just want to know
the craziest
why
thing
no
is
one's
that the
talking.
windows were down.
Yeah, both of them. I don't know if it was the driver and the passenger. I think it was the driver and one in the rear. Are you not shocked that police didn't find that for, like the first time around going in this body of water?
Of course. Oh my gosh. I mean, it's devastating to think that they couldn't do that on their own, that they didn't take the time to
It's county.
a thorough, it's county, baby. But it's
county.
so just sad to think that without the help of these divers, these parents could have been tortured for, I don't know, months, years, like.
That's true. No, you're very right. There's something extremely painful, of course, about a child going missing under like grim circumstances like this. But there's something even more painful, I think, about not having that kind of closure.
Absolutely. You know? And the hope of your child returning, like dwindle, being dangled like a carrot.
Yeah, I still think about that Brandon Swanson
I know.
thing where the parents still leave the light on, just in case.
Yeah.
That breaks my heart.
Yeah. It's devastating, but this is honestly a better outcome for them, I'm sure. Not that they care about the outcome for themselves; they want their daughter back. But,
right.
Oh my God,
we should talk a little bit about. I mean, I kind of side with what you're saying now. Now that you kind of ran me through this theory of like she's planning to leave around like 12:30 or like sometime after that. But then there's that block on the road, but also maybe she's so intoxicated that she's like, I can't leave. I've got to like hang back and chill out till morning. And maybe she just happens to be with like one of the guys that's like hanging back. And that was who she was seen with, but I'm trying to think like, okay, so what is the story that happens after that incident with the serviceman? If that was true, if that was, if that all went down as he said on the right day, is she OD? And then like the kid panics and he's like, oh my God, I've got to get rid of her. Let me just like make it look like a suicide. Like, or does he actually harm her? Like, again, like opportunistic killing. I find it really hard to believe like people just by chance, like, spontaneously kill like that,
Yeah, I have you seen Succession?
Only a little bit, yeah.
This is, I mean, I guess it is a big plot point. I don't want to spoil anything for you. But all I'll say is
for me or for the audience?
Well, for you and the audience. Yeah, maybe I shouldn't say too much, but there is a situation where a car goes underwater and someone survives and someone doesn't, and it's they cover it up. Like, it's a way to cover up the killing of this person, and like
to stage it to make it look like a suicide.
No, I mean, actually in this case, gosh, I'm trying to remember how the person dies.
Which is crazy because you were a staff writer on that show.
I know,
for all
it's
6
crazy.
seasons.
Oh my God, why can't I remember? But there was some component of it where I think the guy was on drugs or something and goes off because he's on drugs, goes off the side over a bridge and ends up I just spoiled it.
I mean, you did give a caution though. You said I don't want to spoil anything.
I know.
So they were listening
and
they were like, okay, great. So she's not going to spoil anything.
I didn't say the character's name, but I did spoil it.
Okay. Okay. But it's okay. I mean, to be fair, that could be any TV show. Like, it could be Breaking Bad. Yeah. That could be anything.
Yeah. But the other person ends up getting out and just like leaves the body there. It wasn't intentional. It wasn't like on purpose he tried to kill this person, but very similar circumstances. Party, drugs, wrong person to have behind the wheel of a car, and they crash the car and they get out. The other person, and they're like,
no, it kind of reminds, I think I know what you're talking about. Like, well, it kind of reminds me of, I can't spoil this either because this is also a huge TV show, so I won't mention the show, but there was a character, 2 characters, and they get into a car accident, and he basically, the reason they're in the car accident is because one of them is like, can't kick a drug habit. And because his injuries are so extensive, he's still alive and probably could have survived, but the other one just kind of plugs his nose and covers his mouth to like end it right then and there. Mm-hmm. It's that to me is like opportunistic killing, where like something tragic happens, but as a way to like just end it or like remove a witness or to remove yourself from fault, you just facilitate something further happening, and then suddenly you've killed somebody. I wonder if that's what happened. I need more details on this. And the conspiracies that for this are out of control. Like, people are going as far to say, like, maybe she didn't even exist. They're saying, like, this, I don't know how this is going as far as it is, but they're saying that this is, like, one massive conspiracy to, like, cover up something else of, like, I have to read more about it, but that's the wildest one I've heard thus far. I'm sorry.
It's so wild we can't even bring it. Like, we can't.
I can't give it the time of day because it's just ridiculous. Yeah. But I think it's because like the family hasn't come forward, and like so few people from the party seem to have any like witness testimony. People are like, was this girl even real, or is this just like police trying to scapegoat for something? I don't know what the theory is, but those kids on Reddit.
I was going to say, that sounds like a theory started by someone at that party.
Well, I find that, troubling that, like, even now, like, that all of this has come out and, like, people have alibis and people have ways to, like, not, remain anonymous, clearly, as this anonymous person has come forward and, like, given their tidbit of, like, I saw her around. What's also interesting about what this anonymous person said that I didn't mention, they claimed to not see her with this best friend, Sammy, pretty much at any point during the night, even though Sammy has like 3 different like moments where she was like, we were at her car and then we were together and then we said goodbye, and like, you know what I mean? I don't know if we can trust this like Jane Doe who came forward, but it's the only thing we have to kind of counter the other witness testimony, which is Sammy's.
What did Jane Doe say again?
Jane Doe said that she was watching Kylie throughout the night. She was making the rounds. She was being social. She was intoxicated. She was drinking. And then after 12:30, she didn't see her say goodbye to Sammy, but she saw her around 1 and didn't see her leave. But that was the last moment that she saw her, was around 1 a.m.
I wish this Jane Doe would say who she saw her with.
Yeah. I mean, I don't even know if I read anything about that in her statement, about her seeing... I mean, she just said that she was kind of moving around the party in general. And there's a lot of speculation coming forward, too, about, like... Because people are grasping at straws here. A lot of people are clinging to, like, the tangible evidence we have, which is the dive video. And they're saying there's something going on in that car that looks strange. Like, her seatbelt was, like, caught in the glove compartment or something odd like that. Something that looked like a little funny in that car. And I think people are just kind of tying that in as, like, a weird connection. Like, oh, that looks visually strange in, like, this car accident. But also, like, she mentioned that weird comment about the seatbelt.
Yeah, I was going to say
plug my seatbelt into my belt? Again, I don't know what that's about. The only thing I could think of is, like, she was having a psychotic break or she was on something. They were both on something. They had to be.
Yeah, that comment is very strange context to think about now that, or the context is now providing some more color to that comment, I guess is what I should say, because what if she really was, like, plotting a way to
end things?
End things, yeah.
Oh, that's so dark to think about, like, even talking about it and plotting it with someone else in the car, too. I don't know. I mean, there was nothing to suggest that I found in the research that she was unhappy or she was going through something, things go on behind the scenes that we don't know, but I don't know. There was nothing that kind of, like, even when they thought that, like, this was just a drunk driving thing or this was, like, of her own doing, it was never mentioned that, like, she took her own life. I don't know.
I think it would be very unusual, too, for a 16-year-old
it certainly does happen.
Do that.
Yeah.
I mean, it does happen, but it's pretty unusual for a young woman of her age to do that.
Yeah. I mean, unless something really, really horrible went down at this party socially that we're not being told.
Yeah.
And why people have, like, kept their mouths shut. Also, reading about the nature of these parties was really shocking to me because apparently, like, fights, like breaking out in fights is, like, it's like a normal thing for these parties. It's like the entertainment for the party, and the party had no music.
Okay, this sounds like a weird, like, Burning Man situation. Like, what in the world?
It just sounds like a bonfire in the woods with a bunch of teenagers drinking Smirnoff.
Yeah, but, like, doing drugs, like, is what it sounds like to me. I don't think it's unusual that she might have been on, like, psychedelics or something, but I don't, to my knowledge, and I've never done psychedelics, I know people that have done psychedelics, I don't think I don't think they would last, the effects would last that long to the point that in the next morning she's still feeling the effects enough to make some comment about her seatbelt into her belt. Like, but maybe, I don't know.
Well, it depends what she's taking. Psychedelics, hallucinogens. She could be taking LSD. That definitely lasts like upwards of 8 to 10 hours. So that could last for a very long time. I generally think, like, if we're talking about LSD versus something like mushrooms, LSD has the potential to be much more dangerous. I've heard of a lot of people accidentally harming themselves, which is why you should have a trip sitter. Maybe that's what that guy was. Maybe, I mean, beyond just an OD, maybe, like, he was the trip sitter and something went terribly wrong and she did hurt herself or accidentally even killed herself. And then he panicked because she was in his care, his company. So then he drives the car and stages this like a suicide.
Yeah.
Let me send you a picture of Jagger real quick, the boyfriend, because you're gonna flip. You're gonna be like, okay, that's the kid, that's the guy, like.
Yeah.
And I don't want to say I feel bad for him, but, like, he's getting a lot on social media right now because the story broke and because that serviceman gave that description, and everything about him to a T is the description that this guy gave. So I have a really like difficult time kind of piecing this together and understanding how he had an alibi, unless the serviceman is like really confused about his dates and like did service a car, but it was like days before. I don't know what happened. Let me know if you get it.
He looks like bad news. What was the alibi again?
Well, he said he was out of state and then he was returning the night of the party. So, but like timing wise, and I guess he provided receipts to law enforcement for this. It wouldn't work out timing wise that he was at the party. But there's the potential if the serviceman saw her on Sunday, that was the kid. But the thing that strikes me about this, if you remember the description that the serviceman gave, he said a black San Francisco baseball cap.
Ah, he's wearing it.
When I saw this picture in the article, I almost fell out of my damn chair. Are you joking? That's him.
Okay,
what are the odds? Come on.
What are the odds? Okay, hold on. What's the law called where it's like the simplest, the most direct, obvious choice is the
Occam's razor? Is that what we said?
Yes.
Occam's razor.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
Okay, here's where this could possibly go down. She goes to this party. She gets drunk, stays too long. I'm thinking like a teenage girl here. Mm-hmm. There are boys there showing you attention. You are staying. You want to stick around. You're having fun. Your boyfriend's not there. You can, do whatever you want. He's not going to get pissed off at you.
Well, you don't have someone breathing down your neck. Yeah.
Right. And then you freak out and you're like, oh my God, I can't get home. Like, what am I going to do? And you either hang around with someone until the morning and then your boyfriend comes and he's like, I'll be there. And then he gets jealous and pissed off or whatever. And something strange goes down.
Something bad.
Yeah. Like, but if that witness said the guy had a San Francisco black baseball cap on in every photo he has it on.
The dark brown wispy hair, the thin, tall build. I mean,
it's
dude.
too close. It's so close.
Unless I know this is Northern California. Does everybody wear those damn caps? Is that like a common thing?
I mean,
it's
that
so
would
and
be
like
so strange.
The audacity to get on a TV interview and wear if he was there and wear the same cap that was found in the description, like that's unreal.
But maybe he didn't know that had come out yet. Maybe he didn't know that.
I think it had. I think that statement had come.
Okay.
It had come out at this point. So this is like really, really new because once that description of the unknown male came out, like people who were following this case were like searching everywhere, and of course, like they're gonna go through social media and they're gonna find this kid, and they're like, yeah, it's him. It's him. I don't know. I don't know. I think this is a case that we'll definitely have to revisit once we do have more information. I hope that we have an outcome that gives us a resolution and explains some of what happened to her. We're definitely, I don't want to say it's good that we, found her because of course you don't want to find her in this state, but it is good that she was found in this time frame because it at least gives us the opportunity to do a tox screen and to do like a thorough autopsy to actually determine the manner of death. And it'll be very telling in the next couple of weeks what we're going to see and what we're going to find out. But I'm happy that you knew a little bit about this, but I really wanted to do a deep dive with you. I was itching to do it because this is like one of the craziest cases that I've heard in the media since Gabby Petito. This is really, it's rivaling it.
Very similar setup. Yeah, we're going to have to do like a part 2 as more information comes to light.
Yeah, we'll do a follow-up on this for sure. But that is at least the backstory. So for anybody who's listening, this is where we're at right now as of September. Come October, we will come back with new information. And yeah, we're happy to keep you posted. And with that, I guess we're going to conclude our first round of an investigation into the case of Kylie Rodney. We will catch you guys on another Creep Time. Thank you for listening.
Thank you for listening, creepers. Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.